I'm gonna do a video on a subject that I've never talked about on this channel, which is kind of strange because I talk a lot about Nintendo stuff on this channel, but that is Pokemon. Pokemon? What does RGT85 know about Pokemon? He's never covered Pokemon stuff on this channel. Look, son, all right, I'm an OG when it comes to the Pokemon universe. I remember having Red while my best friend had Blue when we were in 8th grade. I remember going to his house every day before school so we could watch the Pokemon cartoon together. I wanted to be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them was my real test. To train them was my cause. And I continued to play Pokemon games throughout the years, but around the time Pokemon White came out on the Nintendo DS, I fell out of love with the series. I don't think it was necessarily there was something wrong with the series. I just think I just got tired of it. I got, so used to how Pokemon was and what to expect that the whole feeling of freshness and newness really just kind of escaped me. And I don't think that's a bad thing for the series. I think that, it's continued its traditions and done really well. And obviously we have versions on the 3DS now, which are some of the best versions of Pokemon games. But still, with the jump to the Nintendo Switch, we're dealing with a whole nother beast here. This is the first time that we're gonna see a mainline Pokemon game on a console that's honestly pretty powerful. You gotta remember, you're running Doom and Skyrim on this console, and they both look great. So there's a lot of power to be harvested from the Nintendo Switch. So I thought to myself, with all these Pokemon announcements that we're going to be seeing in 2018, I think it'll be fun if I give my opinion on what things Pokemon for the Nintendo Switch needs and what it should have to bring someone like me back into the foray, to bring, a fresh new take on the Pokemon universe. So today we're going to talk about what I want to see on Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch and why I think these things would be great for Pokemon on the Switch. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch. The first thing I want to talk about is obviously the biggest thing when it comes to Pokemon games and with this jump from the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch, and that of course is graphics. Now, graphically speaking, Pokemon Red and Blue back in the day were very serviceable, and as time went on, things progressed, slightly with these games. You saw better character models. With the 3DS, it sort of, found a good groove, and you got some really nice looking stuff, but still, it's definitely a game that it was designed with handhelds in mind. It's definitely a game that doesn't really use much power, doesn't use many resources. Even when you look at the best looking Pokemon game on its respective platform, there are games that look 10 times better on those respective platforms. Looking at the Game Boy, a game like Link's Awakening looks way better than Pokemon Red and Blue, but it wasn't about the graphics, it was about the gameplay with those games. But with Pokemon coming to the Nintendo Switch, I think it's time for it to go into that next sphere. I think it's time for them to take that leap and really put some console quality graphics in a Pokemon game. Just imagine how interesting it would be to be investigating this Pokemon world and battling all these various types of Pokemon in different settings in a fully 3D rendered engine, using something like Unreal or something. It would just be amazing to see. It would really be a selling point of the game. You could sell it sort of like Pokemon has grown up. Pokemon has taken that next step, that next leap. And I think it would just be amazing to be traversing in these different worlds and, being able to capture different Pokemon in different settings that are fully 3D rendered. We've seen stuff like Unreal Engine demos featuring different Pokemon. You've seen stuff like Pokken Tournament, which show how beautiful and awesome Pokemon can look when proper utilization is used with the power of these, advanced consoles. Even Pokken Tournament was essentially a Wii U game. It released on the Wii U, but it still looked great. It looks great on the Switch as well, and you can see, tons of details on these Pokemon. We've seen it in other things like Pokemon Coliseum on the N64. Pokemon, what was the GameCube one? Gale of Darkness? If I'm wrong, please don't crucify me. I think it was Gale of Darkness. But still, you saw these beautiful characters for the Pokemon, but you never got them in a mainline Pokemon game. You never got that feeling of just exploration, that bewilderment feeling that a game like Pokemon can bring you if it takes that leap into the next generation of graphics. And I honestly feel like that's going to be a focal point for this. I don't think they want to just make, a 3DS style Pokemon and throw it on the Nintendo Switch. I think they want this to be special. This is obviously the first time that a Pokemon game will be on a home console for a Nintendo platform. And what better way to do it, you know, than to have these beautiful, robust graphics that really just bring the world of Pokemon to life. So that's definitely a huge point for me, and something I really want to see, and something I hope that Game Freak really ends up doing, because it would just be so monumental to be able to traverse this world of Pokemon with beautiful graphics. So definitely graphics. I want to see some beautiful textures. I want to see a beautiful Pokemon world that's just living and breathing. The next thing I would like to see them incorporate in the first home console version of Pokemon would have to sort of tie into the graphics. Obviously, when you look at a handheld RPG and you look at a console RPG, there's a huge gap in graphics. And, you know, making that jump, making that leap is really important. Another thing that happens when games are on a handheld versus when games are on a console are mini games. You start to see more mini games. There's more things to do in these console versions than necessarily the handheld versions due to restrictions on those things. And Pokemon actually has a great repertoire of mini games. It's just that you've never really seen the Pokemon mini games within a Pokemon game. They've always been their standalone game. What do I mean by that? Let's look at one of my favorite N64 games of all time, Pokemon Snap. Good Lord, why is there not more Pokemon Snap in the world? It's obvious that Nintendo and Game Freak don't really have any interest in making another Pokemon Snap style game that's just on its own. If they did, you would have seen it on the Wii U. Did you play Fatal Frame on the Wii U? You used your Wii U gamepad as a camera. Like, that was the camera, the spirit camera. So why wouldn't you do that for a Pokemon Snap game? It's obvious that Nintendo just doesn't have any interest in bringing, and Game Freak, an interest in bringing a Pokemon Snap game on its own. So why not incorporate something like Pokemon Snap into this home console version of Pokemon? Think of how amazing it would be to be playing this game, hopefully in this beautiful 3D world with lush environments, and you come across sort of just like this little stand, and there's a little Poke-Cart thing, and you sit in it, and then all of a sudden you're playing a game like Pokemon Snap, and there's a whole ecosystem of points and whatnot with a professor there grading your pictures and stuff, and maybe each area has a different Pokemon Snap sort of environment to it, and you just go on this path. Like, the possibilities are endless. And it's really something that I think Game Freak and Nintendo need to capitalize on, because you're dealing with so much more room. You're dealing with so much more power with this new Pokemon game, with the ability to be able to use it as a home console game on a system that's further, you know, it's more powerful than anything Nintendo has ever released before. It just happens to be a hybrid system. I would love to see stuff like Pokemon Coliseum incorporated. You have seen that with sort of battle modes, but I want to see those sort of, you know, big character models and those big, awesome character models. Maybe even throw in a little Pokken tournament style thing into it. The possibilities are endless. There are so many spin-off Pokemon games that you really could tap into all of those and maybe incorporate a mini game or two, something to stumble across in these Pokemon worlds that would just be amazing. It would give this game infinite replay value, because there would always be something to do. There would always be something to see. So I definitely want to see Nintendo and Game Freak incorporate some mini games. Take use of this extra room and this extra power that you have with this home console and really push Pokemon to the limits. And that would be a great way to do it. Another thing I would love to see with Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch is a more refined battle system. Now, what do I mean by that? I am personally speaking as someone who has only played Pokemon White to date. So maybe they've corrected these things, and I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments if they have, but I always felt the Pokemon battle system was pretty simplistic. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I like simplistic battle systems and stuff. It works well, you know, a rock, paper, scissors sort of thing where one thing trumps over another. But I would like to see it more refined. I would like to see maybe a little more depth into it, because I really think that that's something that you really need to do when you're making this jump. Make a more refined combat system. Maybe include some real-time elements, some sort of things where you do an attack, and if you do a button press at the right time, you incorporate more damage or things like that. There's a lot of room to work with here, and you could really redefine what Pokemon is, because since it was initially released back in, I guess, 97 it was, 96, you know, Pokemon has pretty much remained the same. You know, not a whole lot has changed, and it's really just sort of advanced, but it's never really grown. It's never really taken a next leap and done something, you know, a bit different with the series. So I think a more refined battle system, a deeper battle system, would do wonders for the Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch. Another thing I would like to see for Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch is a more engaging storyline. I always felt that the story in Pokemon games always took a backseat more so to the collecting aspect, to collecting these different types of Pokemon. And there were gym leaders and you would do battle with certain people and there would be, you know, instances of conflict and whatnot, but you never really got like a super deep story. You never got a story that was really worth retelling. It was always just sort of there to help move the gameplay along. And that's fine, but I would think that with this new leap that you would be able to do a lot more in terms of storytelling. You know, maybe render some beautiful cutscenes with, you know, trauma and different sorts of conflict and different sorts of things happening within this world of Pokemon. You could even maybe give it a little bit of a darker tone. You know, have something tragic happen to one of your characters. Have something meaningful happen within the game to make a lasting impact. You don't just have to follow this formula that you've, you know, created over 20 years ago for Pokemon. You can really take it and do something unique with it, do something different with it. So I'd really like to see a focus on the story elements really sort of shine through in this Pokemon on the Switch. And the final thing, the fifth thing on my list, is something that I think will definitely be in this game. If anything else that I have mentioned is not in the game, if anything else doesn't hit it in the game, if they use a similar graphical style, if they don't include mini games, they don't use a more engaging story, they don't use a more refined battle system, I think this will be a primary focus, and that is online stuff. Because really, online needs to be a main focus for this Pokemon game, because it's 2018, you know, 2017, the game is releasing in 2018. These games need some sort of online infrastructure. You know, you can battle Pokemon on these games, you can battle, you know, different types of Pokemon, you could trade Pokemon and whatnot, but I think it's time to take the next step. Maybe look at, you know, a co-op storyline or co-op missions where, you know, similar to like we saw in Xenoblade Chronicles X. I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I know that Xenoblade Chronicles X included missions where you could play online with other people and do interesting things, and they were sort of, you know, deviated from the main storyline, and that's okay. You know, you could do that sort of thing. You could add in additional things that, you know, would really add more replay to Pokemon, because let's face it, this doesn't need to be a yearly franchise anymore. You can get away with releasing one every 2-3 years if you do it right. If you include all these mini games, if you include a more robust battle system, if you include online elements, you don't have to break your back and reuse the same sort of engines over and over again. That's what the beauty of the Nintendo Switch is. You don't have to follow a simple formula that you've been following forever. You could really take a chance and really engage customers and engage Pokemon fans, young and old fans of Pokemon, people like me who have fallen out of love with Pokemon. These sort of things would really bring us back, I feel. This sort of thing would make Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch potentially be one of the greatest selling games of all time. I think this combination of these 5 elements would just bring Pokemon for the Nintendo Switch to the next sphere of gaming, and it would really bring people together, and it would just be an amazing experience. So that's what I want to see in Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch. Those are the 5 things I want to see for Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure you guys have different thoughts. And, you know, if you're a diehard Pokemon fan who's been playing all of the entries since the original, and including the latest 3DS ones, you probably have some thoughts on this subject matter too. So let me know in the comments section down below what you want to see from this game. What would make you, if you're not a Pokemon fan, pick up Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch? And as always, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you hit that like button if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, help your brother out, and, you know, check out all the social media links in the description box. Special shout out to all of my Patreons. Thank you guys so much for consistently supporting this channel. You guys are amazing and I love all of you, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.
RGT NA5, RGT NA5. RGT NA5.